Hi guys, please like, share and subscribe. And if you want full course for any actuarial subject, visit theactuarialguy.com or WhatsApp on this number. Thank you.
Okay, now let's talk about the next thing, which are the lookup functions. So we are working with the same data set and we have been given these three questions. So I'll talk about lookup functions using these, and obviously just provide you some additional functions as well to do tasks in addition to these. Okay, so the first one says find the claim amount for policy ID 1025. Okay, so what are they asking us to do? They want us to this time let's just duplicate this sheet. Okay, let me teach you how to duplicate a sheet. So you can right click and click on move or copy, and then you select lecture 2, which is the sheet I want to copy, right? Anyway, I've selected that. I want to move it to end, that is the copy should be the last sheet, and we want to select create a copy. Otherwise it will just get moved. This same function is used to move a sheet to another Excel workbook, but right now we are just using it to copy. So you check create a copy, and then you have lecture 2 2. Okay, so now you have lecture 3, right, which is an exact replica of what we had in lecture 2. And what you can do is you can just remove these columns by pressing a control minus. Now let's start with the first part of the question, which says you want claim amount for policy ID 1025. So I want claim amount for policy ID, which policy ID 1025. Okay, alt HOI. Now see, the thing is this policy ID, you want to look up the claim amount based on this. Now, obviously, one way to do it is you can just find 1025 here, which is here, and just see the claim amount, which is this number. So you can directly look it up manually. But imagine if you have to do this for 10 or 20 or 30 policies or something like that, right? Then it becomes complicated. So you need a function or a formula to do this, right? So the best way to do this now is called as a function called as VLOOKUP. Actually, the best way to do this is a function called as HLOOKUP, but HLOOKUP is a newly introduced function which is not allowed by II and IFOA. So that is something I won't be covering, but you can go and look at HLOOKUP. That's a much better function than VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, or index and match that we'll be talking about in this video, right? So you should check out XLOOKUP, but not from an exam point of view. So now what I want to do here is that I want to find the claim amount that is in this column. This column, I want to find the claim amount against a value which is this 1025. Okay, so where policy ID basically is 1025, right? So I just want to effectively, what I'll be doing is I'll be reading off this value against this 1025, right? So then the arguments for this function are firstly, the first argument is lookup value. So what value do you want to look up, right? So you want to look up 1025. Wherever you find 1025, that is the sort of position you want to get, and against that you want to get the claim. So that's your first argument. Now your second argument is the table array, right? What is the entire table that you want to look up in? So the table is this entire table from column A to G. You need to mandatorily select all of the columns till the point where you're looking up. So you can actually end up selecting A to F, and that would be fine, but A to G is equal. It's just the same thing, right? So that's the second argument. Okay, my first argument is gone for some reason. I did not press a comma. So the first argument was the value you want to look up based on, which was J3, and the second argument is the table in which you want to look up in, right? So this is the table I'm going to get my answer from. Now the next argument is column index number. That means whatever column you are looking up in, okay, the column that you want to look up from, that is the claims column, how far is that from this initial column? So if you want to see how far that is, you need to count the number of columns, including both the columns. So the number of columns is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. It's the sixth column. So this argument will be 6. Suppose you wanted to look up the premium, then this argument would have been 5 because it's the fifth column. Suppose you wanted to look up the age, then this argument would have been 4, right? That is how it works. So right now I'm going to do 6. And then the last argument here is whether you want an exact match for this 1025 or you want an approximate match. For now, let's work with exact match. I will show you what is the utility of approximate match. Okay. So right now, let's just talk about exact match. So for that, you this argument says if you type true, then it's an approximate match. If you type false, it's an exact match. So we will type false. Alternatively, instead of typing this entire false, you can also just use your arrow key and press tab. That will also give you false. Or you can use 1 and 0 to indicate true and false. 1 is true, 1 is true, and 0 is false. So we can also use 0, okay, instead of writing false. False or 0 means exact match. So I will just use 0 here, and then I was able to look this up, which is 12649. Okay. This is the claim amount against this policy. That is how simple it is to do. So this is how your VLOOKUP works. Now, this VLOOKUP stands for vertical lookup. Here we are looking up in a table based on the row position, right? So we want to look up like from this row 10251, right? Or like whatever row you might want to look up any other row, right? So it's a vertical lookup. There is also a horizontal lookup, which is HLOOKUP. So we can talk about that as well. So let me show you firstly a couple of examples or utility of VLOOKUP, right? And then you can actually we'll explore HLOOKUP, right? Let's say you wanted to instead get the premium amount for the policy ID (1007), right? So now how will you do it? Again, it's VLOOKUP. You want to look up this value 1007. You want to look it up in this entire table, or you can just select a subset till the premium. That's your call completely, right? Then which column do you want to look up? Premium is the fifth column, right? If you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you want an exact match, so it's 0 again. So your premium here is 10,000. So if you see against this, you have a premium of 10,000, right? So that's how straightforward VLOOKUP is. Okay. Now, a couple of restrictions in case of VLOOKUP. So firstly, VLOOKUP only works when you're looking up based on the leftmost column. So let's say if this policy ID was to the somewhere in the right, then it would become difficult, right? For example, let's say instead of using this policy ID was actually the third column. Even now we can look it up easily, because what we'll do is in the table array that we are selecting, now instead of selecting from column A, I will start selecting from column C, and then I will make this number as 4, right? It's the fourth column now, 1, 2, 3, 4. So still policy ID is the leftmost column in the table that I have selected, right? So still this would work. This is fine. But if policy ID was in fact to the right of these columns, claims and premiums, this VLOOKUP will not function. Okay, you can't you know look up something on the left with respect to something on the right using VLOOKUP. That is why we will discuss one more function to do this. This is your that is your index and match function. Okay, so that is the first restriction, that you can only look up based on the leftmost column. Okay, second, the second condition, it looks up the first value that is a match. Okay, so basically if I ask you a question, now let's you know let's just go back to how it was. Okay, okay, so the second condition, it looks up the first value that is a match. Now here we know that your policy ID is a unique identifier. So against that we can look up anything. But a lot of these values repeat. Okay. So let's say I wanted to look up against the age. Okay. So now this age of 40, it will keep on repeating, right? So you can't look up just based on this. When you look up, it will just give you the first match, right? So the question can be, if you are to use VLOOKUP here still, the question will need to be framed slightly differently. The question would be claim amount for the first policyholder with age 69. Can I see some age that is repeating? Yes, 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 I spotted 69 twice. You see here, this is 69 and this is also 69. Okay, so both of them are 69. Now if I try to look up, you want to look up based on 69, so you do a VLOOKUP, and you want to look up based on age, so you will start from age, right? And you want to look up the third column, which is the claim, right? Sorry, first argument is that you want to look up this value 69 from this table. The third argument is which column do you want to look up. You want to now look up the third column, and it's an exact match. So now you see you get 4627. Why did you get 4627? Because it's the first match that VLOOKUP was able to find. All the subsequent matches, this one did not come, this one did not come, right? These claim amounts did not come. It was just the first match. So that is the second restriction of VLOOKUP. In a function called as HLOOKUP that I was talking about earlier, you can actually, this is more flexible. You can also get the last match and so on and so forth, right? So all of that flexibility is available with HLOOKUP, but not VLOOKUP, right? So these are the two sort of restrictions of VLOOKUP. Now let me do two things. One, show you how HLOOKUP works, okay, and also show you how I can use approximate match. So those are the two things I want to do, right? So now if you copy this, right, and you actually, if instead of a row wise data, this was a columnar data, let's make it a columnar data. So what I'll do is a Control Alt V, and then I will paste a transpose. Okay, so when I paste a transpose, why is it not able to transpose? I'm not able to understand. Wait, let me think about it. Maybe are these rows a lot for it? I don't think that is true. Yes, we were able to paste the transpose. Actually, we don't want to paste the formula reference. We want to paste the values of the transpose. Yes. Okay. So you see, this is exactly that same data, but now instead of everything being in rows, it is in columns, and this is where this HLOOKUP is helpful. Okay. Now the same questions, these three questions you can do using HLOOKUP instead of VLOOKUP. What is the claim amount for policy ID 1025? Now you will use HLOOKUP. Okay. Now what is the value you want to look up? You want to look up this value 1025. What is the table array you want to look it up in? So now you select the entire table array, right? Now which row do you want to look up, right? It's the row index number this time, not the column index number. This is the claims, right? So that is, if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So I will still take 6 and it's an exact match 0. So you'll get the same answer, right? Similarly, here as well, we will apply HLOOKUP, but this time we want to apply it on the premium amount. We want to get the premium amount against this, right? The array is the same, right? It's just the fifth column. So you get the same answer, right? And then this one as well, I can do using HLOOKUP. So I'll do an HLOOKUP, and then I want to look up what? I want to look up this age. I want to look it up in this array. I want the, okay, so you want to do against age, right? So that's not this entire array. That has to be the last 3 rows. Okay. And now I want to get the, what did I want to get? The claim amount, right? So that is column number, row number 3 and exact match. So you again get the same answer. So you can do the same thing using HLOOKUP that you do using VLOOKUP, just that it's when the data is stacked as rows instead of columns, right? So that is the idea of HLOOKUP. Okay. Okay. Now I want to discuss an example where we use approximate match for VLOOKUP. Okay. This is the second question. Calculate the bonus rate applicable to each policy holder, and let's say they have also given us bonus rates here based on whatever the claim that the policy holder has made. If someone makes a lower claim or no claim, they get a higher bonus, and if they make a very high claim, they get no bonus. Okay, that's the idea. So let me actually paste it into your question itself. Okay, so that is what we have. Okay, this is not looking great. Let me just add very thick borders outside, and then copy and then paste. Okay, this is how it is looking. Maybe needs to be configured here. All right, this is fine. It looks okay, right? So this is the bonus rate, and if the claim amount is greater than 0, then it's 10%. If it is greater than 5,000, it is 7%. If it is greater than 10,000, it is 5%. If it's greater than 15,000, it's 2%. And if it is greater than 20,000, there is no bonus, right? So that is the idea. Another way you can read it is, and this can be greater than equal to. Okay, yes. Yeah, another way you can read this is that if the claim is less than 5,000, then there's a 10% bonus. Less than 10,000, 7% bonus. Less than 15,000, 5%. Less than 20,000, 2%, 0 otherwise. So this is the bonus level that is given. Now, how will you get the exact bonus rate that is applicable to each policy holder based on their claim amount? Okay, so let's think about that. One way to do it is using a nested if loop, and this is something we have seen earlier as well. Another way actually to do is using this approximate match of VLOOKUP. Okay, so we will also look at here, right? So let's do that. So now let's see how do I do it using nested loop. So using nested if loops, the way to do this is simple, and this is something we have seen earlier. So it is if the claim amount is greater than 20,000, then the applicable bonus rate is 0%. Okay, we can make both of these fixed, so I'll just press F4. Okay, if this otherwise, if this is not true, then otherwise, if this claim amount is greater than 15,000, okay, and we should use greater than equal to actually. So greater than equal to, if this is greater than equal to 15,000, then the amount is, or the percentage applicable is 2%, right? Again, F4 to make it fixed, right? Otherwise, if this is not true, if the claim amount is greater than equal to 10,000, again we press F4, comma, the value is 5%, right? If this is not true, then if the claim amount is greater than equal to 5,000, F4, then the rate applicable is 7%. Otherwise, it is 10%, right? And then we close all of them. One, here we had to write if, and here also we had to write if. Yeah, and then close all the bracket, closing 1, closing 2, closing 3, closing 4, 3, 4, all of them are closed, right? So now if you see this first one, the rate is 5%, and then you can just drag it down. Yeah, everything looks fine, you just drag it down. And you want to obviously show this in percentage, so Alt H P, right? So now let's just randomly check values. So at 12,000, it should be 5%, right? Let's see if we can find some bigger value. Yeah, it's mostly 5, 7, 10, so on and so forth, right? I think the highest claim was itself 19,000 something. So I don't think the 20,000 slab will be applicable here. Yeah, I think it's 19,000. The 20,000 slab is not applicable. And yeah, 15,000 slab would be applicable at some points, which is 2%, which is something you see here. Okay. And then if it is less than like 5,000, it's 7%. No, yeah, less than 5,000, it's 10%. Over 5,000, it's 7%, right? So it looks correct. This is how you determine the bonus rate using nested if loops, right? But this is obviously a very inefficient way, right? Like such a long formula I had to write. So you can actually do this using VLOOKUP instead. Okay. How do you do this using VLOOKUP? So instead, what you do is you VLOOKUP based on the claim amount, right? You look up in this table itself, right, where you have your greater than equal to sort of slabs, right? You look up the second column, but you actually use an approximate match. So this approximate match can be used to get this greater than equal to kind of a value. You see, this is matching, and now you want to obviously fix this range. So you do an F4 for this and then you drag it downward. Right, but not fixed for this value. Yeah, just the range is fixed. Okay, you drag it downward. So you will realize that you've gotten the same answers, the exact same answer. If you want to check Alt I C, you can check by checking if this is equal to this, and this will be true throughout. Right, you see this is true throughout. You can also add a filter and check if this is a match, and you will only see true values here. Okay, so this is how you do the same thing using a VLOOKUP instead of if conditions. Okay, so that is the idea. Now that is all about how VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP function. Okay, now we will move to index and match. Now see, the thing is, we noticed a problem with VLOOKUP, which is this first problem, which is you need to look up based on the leftmost column. But a lot of times that is just not feasible. Sometimes the column you're looking up based on is to the right of the column that you want to look up, right? And that is where it's a problem, and thus using index and match can be very, very, feasible. So how do you do that? Let's see. So let me actually, use index and match here. So now instead of looking up using VLOOKUP, we'll look up using index and match. So now what do these functions index and match do? Okay, match basically gives you a position wherever you have a match, and then index looks up the index, the value corresponding to it. So firstly, let's try match. How does it work? Let's work with match. So in case of match, what you're trying to do is, and we are working with the same question again, claim amount for policy ID 1025, right? So you want to look up this value, again, lookup value, that argument is the same. You want to look it up in the array. What array do you want to look it up in? You can look it up in this array, right? You want to just get what position is policy ID 1025 at, right? And the final argument is match type, less than, exact match, or greater than, right? So it gives you that flexibility. I just showed you VLOOKUP does a greater than equal to kind of a match, right? With index match, you can do a less than, greater than, all of these kinds of match, right? Right now I want to do an exact match, right? So this just gives you what is the position for this claim amount 102, sorry, for this policy ID 1025 in my data. So it says it's the 26th position. Okay, so if you see, what have I selected? I've selected column A, so it's the 26th position here, starting from here. So that's what this is saying. So here, if you see till here, there are 26 cells. Okay, so it's the 26th position. Now if I know the position, I can look up this value. How do I look up? Using the index function. Okay, now what does index do? In index, you just need to put the array that you're looking up from. So I want to look up the claim amount, so I want to look up from column F, and then what is the row number that you want to look up? That comes based on match. So I want to get the 26th row, and that's it. You can actually just close this, and that gives you the same amount. Okay, so that is how index and match works. The idea is that you look up the position based on the match function. So what you're telling the match function is, look, I want to know what is the position of policy ID 1025, right? And match gives you the position. And then you tell index, okay, I want to get the claim amount. I want to get the value in the claim amount column corresponding to this position. That is how you use index and match. Now what we essentially did is we decoupled our first step, which is to look up what position we are going to, and the second step is to look up the value. So since these two are decoupled, since they happen separately, uh, what ends up happening is that the columns can be in any order. They can be left, right, whatever you want, right? It doesn't matter. So that is the advantage of index and match, right? uh, and now you can do the rest of these using index and match as well, and you can do them from like columnar data or row data, doesn't matter, right? So let me show you actually looking up the second value, premium amount corresponding to policy ID, using this data, that is using this columnar data instead of this row level data, right? So what I'll do is I'll type index. So I want to get the value in what array? In the premium array. Okay, I want to get it in the premium array. Now corresponding to what row number? Now here the argument row number actually represents the column number, because we have taken an array which is like a row. Okay, so in the first argument itself you can use match, like the second argument itself you can use match. Okay, and now you want to look up value. What value do you want to look up? You want to look up 1007 in what array? You want to look it up in this, right? And you want to get an exact match, and that's it. Okay, so you got 10,000. See, that's how straightforward it is. Index and match might seem intimidating to you in the beginning, but it's very intuitive. Match is used to get the position, and then index is used to look up. So you have essentially decoupled the two activities that you were doing, right? And then similarly, you can do this third one as well. But again, for index match, you will only get the first value, that is the match, right? Yeah. Okay. So now this is done. Let's move on to the next assignment or the next question, which is get the age of the policy 5 rows below the first gold policy. Okay, and this is the offset uh, function that we'll be talking about. Okay, so let's get into offset. Get the age of the policy 5 rows below the first gold policy. So the first gold policy occurs here. Okay, let me highlight this. First gold occurs here, and then 5 rows below 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this one, and then you wanted to get this age. Okay, so that's the broad idea of what we want to get. We want to get 39. How do you do this? So let's write it. Age of the policy holder 5 rows below the first gold. Okay, so this is offset. Now what does offset do? Let's figure it out. So offset says give me a reference and then tell me how many rows and columns you want to go from there. Okay, so let me just show you. So if I tell offset I want to start at this cell, and then I want to go 2 rows ahead and 2 columns ahead. So I'm starting at this cell D2, and then I want to go 2 rows ahead and 2 columns ahead. So 2 rows means to this cell, which is D4, and 2 columns would then mean F4, right? 2 columns, 8000 and then 17157, right? So if you put 2 here, 2 rows, 2 columns, you should just get this value 17157. If you do an OK, yes, that's the value you get. Okay, that is how offset works. It just takes a reference and then it moves to whatever position you want to go from there, right? So you can just like think of it like a chessboard, and you can just tell it like how many columns do you want to add and how many rows do you want to add, right? Something like that. Great. So that is what offset does. Now what do I want to do? I want to get the age of the policyholder 5 rows below the first gold, right? Now there are two ways to do this. One is an index match based method, and then the other one is offset match based method. Okay, So first let's try index match, because that is something we have just practiced a lot. Okay, so in case of index match, how will you do it? You just want to find the first gold first. So let's do that. So I want to do a match and I want to see where gold occurs for the first time. What is the value I'm looking up? I'm looking up gold in column C. Okay, and then I want an exact match. So this just tells me that gold occurs for the first time at the 6th position, right? And if I want to go 5 rows below this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 5 to it. So that will just be the 11th row, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So that is where I want to go, and there I want to get the age. So using index, I can actually get it from this array. Which array? Array D. Right here, I want to get whatever is at the 11th position, and that does my job, and that is 39. Let's see if this is correct. Yes, this is correct. Okay, this is index match based method. Then there is the offset match based method. Okay, alt H. Offset is not something you will use a lot, but sometimes it just comes in very handy. So I'm just teaching you it. Okay, now again, the idea is that you again want to do the same thing. You want to move these same number of rows, right? You want to move 11 rows and 0 columns starting from this one. You want to start from D1, right? And then you want to move effectively, you want to move just 10 rows down, right? Because like D1 is already included, right? So this is my 1. So I just want to move 10 rows down from here. So that is the way to do it. So instead of 11, I actually want to move 10 rows down. So I'll just do -1 here, right? Because the thing is that like if I move 11 rows from here, I will reach this 12th row. From 1, I just add 10 to it to 11. That's the idea, right? So slightly unintuitive, but yeah, you need to like move only 10 rows. And then now you just use offset, right? And then the reference point is just this D1. And then you want to move 10 rows and 0 columns from it. So again, you get the same answer, right? So that's how you use your offset match sort of a combination in order to get to any particular cell that you want to. Okay, so that's all for this video. We'll talk about other things in the next one. Thank you.